Hi and welcome to Lab 7. In this lab we're to look at essentially it's just a wee quick prototype for asteroids, nothing particularly brilliant. But what you have to do is you were given 4 tasks to have a look at. Now if we run the code that we have just now, we'll kind of go through what we have to do. I'll turn the sound down on this. Because it gets a bit irritating after a while. So you see there's your 4 asteroids going off into the distance, and what you have to do is try and work out or change the placement of the asteroids a wee bit, which is fine. And then you have to make your rocket, which if I press the up arrow key it will move. It disappears off the screen completely, so you want to just get it so that it will bounce off the screen and come back. Okay. And the third task was to add some instructions at the bottom left here, and also finally get the score to clock up when you shoot something. Okay, so we'll have a wee look at those just now. So firstly, if you look here at this area here on line 50, okay, you'll see that we have 2 distributions there that we're looking at. The first one, called asteroid distribution, we'll use the random number generator that we have here to generate a number between 1 and 5, and that number we will then use down here when we're generating an asteroid, and we'll use that number here. We'll create it here and we'll multiply it either by 100 or by 50, and that will change the position of each of the asteroids when we generate it. So this code here at 103 basically loops 5 times, and what it does is it creates a new asteroid, puts it in the asteroids, which is a vector, so it's just a way for us, another collection for us to look at, and it will set its position, its translation value. It will also randomise using this text dist, this asteroid text dist. It will randomise the sprite that it uses, so it will just change whichever version of the asteroid that it's looking for. Then we'll set the texture based on this random texture, and we'll then get the sprite dimensions, set the velocity, and also set whether it's active. Now that's quite important, because the active part here means that when we render while it's active, we'll draw it on screen. Once we get some collision detection working and we shoot the asteroid, it will change it to false, and then eventually we'll take it out of that vector collection, and it means it won't be rendered. Okay, so to basically change or to play about with the random positions, you just want to play about with this line here and just change some values. So either change the 100 or the 50, and then if you want the distribution to be wider than 1 and 5, simply come back up here and change this number between 1 and 5. Okay, just make it bigger or smaller. On this second uniform distribution, it's between 0 and 3, and 0 and 3 is obviously 4 numbers, and that represents either asteroid 1, 2, 3 or 4. Okay, because we use that distribution in the random number it generates to access this texture name array. Okay, and we covered in the last one how this the last video how this works. Okay, so the next thing then that we want to do, we've been asked to do, is basically make sure that our rocket stays within the bounds of the screen. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to go down into the update function. You can see here's the update function, and around about line 178 we're simply going to put in an if statement. Okay, and that if statement is essentially going to check if our rocket has come close to 0 or the bounds of the window, so that's either the screen width or the screen height. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut and paste in some code that I have already got, just to save me a wee bit of time, because I think the last video was just a wee shade on the long side. Okay, so I'll paste this in and then I'll explain what it does. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're saying the rocket.getSprite.x position, so get its x value. If it's less than or equal to 0, or, that's what this symbol here means, or the rocket's x value is greater than the width minus the width of the sprite. Now we're doing that so that, remember, it's always the top left hand corner of the sprite we take the values from. So what we're doing there is we're basically taking off the width of the sprite so that it looks like it will collide nicely with the side of the screen and bounce off. Okay, and what we do is if either of these two x value or either or of these is correct, then the rocket.sprite position will be set to its current position, and then what we do is we change the move value that we have by multiplying it by -1. So effectively what we're doing is we're toggling the direction, because we have constant movement of the rocket, so that when we press a key the rocket moves by itself. Because we've got constant movement of the rocket, we want to, when it collides with the side, change that direction value so that it bounces off and moves to the side. If it's not the x positions, then we check to see if it's the y positions, and we do exactly the same thing. We just change the movement by -1, and again that toggles it so that it'll either, if it was going up the way, it will now start to go down the way, and vice versa. Okay, and we get, again, just set the position of the rocket, current rocket position. So taking that wee bit of code, let's see what we get this time. What I'll do is I'll set the rocket off so that it goes up the way, and you can see what happens when it goes up the way. Okay, so I'm not touching any of the keys because it moves by itself. And we'll see, oh, you get a wee bit of shudder there, but otherwise it's not too bad. You can play about with the code and see if you can change that, and hopefully it'll hit the bottom and bounce off again. Okay, and if we turn the rocket, we've got a wee bit of drift. It's going the wrong direction, but not to worry. It'll hopefully bounce off of there, and then when it comes over to the other side, it should bounce back off of there. Okay, so hopefully it'll just bounce off there. It's a wee bit overlappy there, but we can check that out. Okay, so we'll stop that there and we'll move on to the next task. That's not too bad. Have a play about with that and see if you can get it to be fixed. So the next task you were asked to do was to add the instructions. So if we go back up to the initialization section, you'll see up here we've got at line 72 we've got game text list, and we've got asteroids and score. So in there we want to put in there another bit of text, which is instructions : use the arrow keys. Okay, and we'll close that off. Now that's the text that we are going to actually end up drawing on the screen. So to do the drawing on the screen part, we're going to have to basically grab, well, I'm just going to copy the line of text that I've already done and place it here. Okay, and that's, I've called it the instructions, and basically I just generate based on, see here it says game text list 2, that means it's this entry here, because remember arrays always start at 0, so it's 0, 1, 2. So it'll take that information, create a texture, and then the next thing we want to do is render that texture out. So we'll go down into the render, and to render the texture out we use the same format that we did for the line where it says score, and what we do is render that texture out based on whatever position we want to position it in. So we simply set the temporary texture to the instructions, which was the one that we created in the initialization section. We set its position to be 10 in from the side and 700 down on the y-axis, and then we render the texture. So hopefully when we do that, you should see not only do we have the asteroid, the rocket moving and staying within the bounds, but this time we've got also some text. So you can see that down here. It says instructions, use the arrow keys. Okay. So the next thing that we had to do was to update the score. So the best place to do or to start is down inside the collision detection. Okay, so in this check for collisions, but what we're saying is that for every bullet that we've fired, we check against every asteroid, okay, to see if we've hit it, and if we have hit it, then essentially we set both the asteroid and the bullet to false, which means that we can then take it out of our list, which means we don't need to deal with it again. We create a new explosion, which is just a wee animation of the explosion happening, and we play an explosion sound. Now at this point what we want to do is we have a couple of things that we need to do. We're going to take the variable called score, and we are going to add to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a value, whatever value we want. In my particular instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 100 to the value, and then I'm going to say string score equals game text list 1, which is effectively overwriting the previous value, and then we'll say string score plus equals toString the score, and it will be a C string. We've discussed strings before and how they vary in type and how they vary in delimiters, etc. when they're stored in memory, but we're using a C string. So as I said, the score will be overwritten with the value of what's in game text list 1, which was just text that said score colon and then a space, and then we are converting the integer called the score so that it becomes a string, and we're adding the two together so that it shows that value. Okay. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go into game.h, and we're going to add at line 69, as you can see there, we're going to add a wee boolean value. Now that boolean value there is going to help us when we go to render, okay, because what we don't want to be doing is creating the same texture again and again and again. It just eats up memory. So we'll go into cgame.cpp, and after this line here, 262, we will add that update score, and we'll set it to true. And what we're saying is that there's been a collision, we've shot an asteroid, so we've updated the score, and that means we need to delete the old score, create a new score, and then render it. Okay, so what we'll do is go up into the render function again. Okay, and you'll see there we've got render temp texture equals get texture the score. Now in this area here we're going to stick in an if statement, and that if statement is going to basically check that boolean value. Okay, and what it's saying is that if update score, so now if it's true, okay, delete the previous version of the score, add the new version of the score, and set update score back to false. Okay, and what that means is that when we run this, for every render it will check to see if it needs to recreate the score, and if it does, it will do, and it will set false back. It will set the update score back to false. Okay, so let's have a look at what happens there when it runs. And I'll get ready to shoot some asteroids as well, which will be helpful. Okay, so there you go. And there's the scores going up, and that's pretty much us. Okay. So that's us. Hopefully that was helpful. And again, same technique that we can use in other labs or games that you're wanting to do. Okay,